It is 21 minutes after 11 p.m. Central Africa time. Time for our next conversation where we are taking a even deeper step into relationshiping. It is Love and Relationship Wednesdays, and so ours is to understand the dynamics between you and your special somebody. Okay, that is the focal point. Now, joining us is Sean Rattenbury, who is a mind, body, and sound facilitator who helps people reconnect with themselves through intuitive healing and integrated therapy. Through his work with Integrate Wellness, Sean guides individuals and even corporates toward deeper awareness, healing, and purpose, and using everything from sound therapy to trauma release. Tonight, it's about one thing, okay? Tonight, we are talking all things alignment. What does that mean when you and your special somebody are talking beyond the contexts of the physical state and the mental state? What does it mean to be interconnected spiritually? Sean has the 411 and he joins us on the line. Mr. Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to African Diaries.
African Diaries, thank you for having me.
Lovely. So I want to start off with a rather, I think this question is going to set the tone for us. Right. Before we talk about being established, being whole, being well, let's find out what the dating economy looks like spiritually. What's going on, Sean? Okay, because in 2026, things are looking a hot mess. When we talk about the physical state of being, when we think of the realm of the spirit, is there a way to gauge why people are peopling the way they are peopling in 2026?
Definitely. If you look at what has taken place over the last 5, 6 years, we all were happily engaging in life, and then COVID hit. And then COVID hit brought a new awareness to people, especially when it came to lockdown, where there were a lot of couples that have been married, whether it was a year, 10 years, 20 years, they got to see their spouse in a new light and a different light as well. So I do feel that a lot of people through COVID started to see characteristics and behaviors of their partners which they never knew. And that caused a lot of people to have a lot of separation in their home dynamic, but also a lot of separation in their own physical well-being dynamic. And that has had a huge impact on how people are engaging with themselves. And when they engage with themselves, they start engaging with others in the same demeanor. And through my frustration with my spouse, my frustration with my child, my frustration with my colleagues, I'm not realizing that I myself as Sean are creating that through my own internal compass.
Beautiful. Sean, I want to talk about this. I think it's catch 22. Perhaps you can even water it down further for my understanding. So there's this concept of being selfless in the context of a relationship. Yeah. You meant to compromise. Yes. Work on you, but be for the motion of an us. However, I found that in very many practices, be it those who focus on your mental state, on your spiritual state, on your physical state, there's the soul push towards working on yourself. How do we establish a dynamic? Because it feels like you're telling me be present, but don't be present. But, there's a swaying of minds that kind of has people thinking, when I'm in a relationship, am I supposed to lose myself in it? And by that, that means my entire dedication is to you. Or do I focus on self and then subsequently appear selfish in relationships?
Okay, so something I always emphasize to my clients, in order to be selfish, you have to understand what it means to be selfless. But we can't be selfless without understanding what it means to be selfish. So one has to be selfish, but in a very healthy dynamic, where we are able to support ourselves first before we overextend ourselves and help the world, our partners, our children, where they take so much from us and we haven't replenished ourselves. It's like the glass theory. If your glass is full every morning and your spouse, your children, your colleagues are continuously sipping from that glass, most people don't have discernment to keep half the glass for themselves to drink to replenish themselves. So they like it when everybody drinks from their glass and they feel that that is a selfless act. But what you're actually doing is dishonoring yourself first. And I always emphasize to my clients is that everybody wants to be selfless, but very few want to be selfish, but also in a healthy way. I use the example of you've bought yourself something to eat, and your spouse comes or a stranger comes and says, "Can I please have a slice?" You can, in your own selfishness, say, I really was looking forward to this pizza, but I'm also selfless. So yes, you can have a slice or two. But me, if I, as Sean, keep taking a third slice, a fourth slice, a fifth slice, and eventually your pizza gets disappeared because I'm enjoying in this engagement, you have to see the discernment. I can still be selfish in this moment and say, Sean, hold on, I'm giving you two slices. This rest of the pizza is for myself. And a lot of people are losing themselves in relationships. They lose themselves in family dynamics. They're losing themselves in children. And I see that a lot with mothers. Mothers want to be selfless. They want to be able to serve their spouses, serve their kids, but most of the times they lose who they are. They lose their minds, they lose their bodies, they lose their spirits. And something that I always like to emphasize is that you can never be of service to anyone if you can't service yourself. If you can't keep half a glass of water for yourself every single day so that you at the end of the day can drink that last half and replenish yourself, how are you supposed to be a full glass the next morning? And a lot of people are not in a continuation of sustenance for themselves. I mean, who were you before you got married? Who were you before you had children? What was your routine? Were you going to yoga? Were you going on hikes? Were you drinking green smoothies because that was your lifestyle? So why did you give that out because of children and because of husbands? And I think it's important that we have to always remember that we are ourselves first before I can be us as a unit. Because if I'm not myself first, strong, healthy, independent, and ready to show up, I am going to struggle every time you need something from me.
Sean, create a tipping scale for us. For those who are hearing you and saying, yes, I will pour more into self. Yes, I'll go back to routines that I used to practice before this marriage, before this relationship. There is somewhat a scale that one should balance themselves on. Perhaps it can come in the form of a question, it can come in the form of a statement, but something I need to continuously repeat to myself so that I understand that Shayla has to be Shayla so that she's enough for husband, for children.
Question. So you must remember, life has its ups and downs. It has its experiences. And this is the journey that I like to teach my clients when it comes to self-healing, is that, our minds and our bodies are one vessel. And whether we want to believe it or not, this universe has its own governing laws on cause and effect. So I, as Sean, you as Shayla, has an impact on your external world and how you feel internally. So if I'm not keeping myself in a more conscious state, a healthy mind-body connection, consciously aware that I am continuously creating my existence by thoughts, by actions, and by words, if I'm not conscious of that, I will then unconsciously play out a program of my past relationships. My ex-husband did this, my ex-wife did this, my ex-girlfriend was much more kind, and I start nitpicking all these characteristics of past relationships, and I bring that into my present relationship based on my past woundings. And if I'm not conscious that that in itself is creating an external reality, then I do lose myself and I do lose the relationship as well. So the tipping scale for me is for you to consciously understand what is your program and what is your pattern from past relationships to your present. I always say to clients, what is your point of attraction? You want a new life, you want a new girlfriend, you want a new wife, you want a new job, but you'll always come from your past experience. So my past experience, my husband did this, my wife did this. So now I'm standing here in the present moment and I say, I want a different future. Most people, they haven't in the present moment redefined what that future relationship or that future version of themselves can actually be. So what they then do is unconsciously you attract from the past experience. So even though you've attracted a new man, a new wife, a new whatever, that is just a wolf in sheep clothing, because the characteristics of this person, even though they're a new future, will always be exactly like the past. And this is why it's so important that in the present moment that you give yourself sustenance, whether it is to get back into old routines or create new routines, but to always give back to yourself and to always be whole, because that mind-body connection is what's going to help you be a lot more rooted and grounded in all your experiences.
Sure. Sean, I need our moment. Because what are you saying to me that I'm attracting my past? What are you saying to me that the wolf in sheep's clothing? Oh, listen, if you've just joined us, we're currently in conversation with Sean Rattenbury, who is a mind, body, and sound facilitator who helps people reconnect with themselves. And tonight we are doing so in conversation, just finding out what a centered whole present Shayla looks like in the context of relationship, and how this can start from spirit into my physical, tangible state. If you have questions, do find us on WhatsApp +27832886684. Sean, I've had a moment to exhale now that we have spoken about us in context of relationship. Let's get into the individual, right? For somebody who's hearing mind, body, and sound healing for the first time and is saying to themselves, I've heard your descriptors and I feel like that's my cycle. I keep on attracting my past. I keep on finding myself in situations that reflect what I once experienced, that broke me down, that, took away any opportunity of a lived experience, of a healed version of myself. What are these things and how can I incorporate them into my daily experience?
If you think about it, if you go to church or you go to a temple, you go to a mosque, or you go to a synagogue, what is the number one thing that brings people in? It's not necessarily the church or the temple or the synagogue or the mosque. It's the sound, it's the chanting, it's the music, it's the praise that everybody is feeling and connecting to. So we have to understand that sound therapy, I mean, I can use this example with you. Think about a song that you resonate with. That song itself has lyrics, what can make you cry, words that can motivate you in the gym, words that can bring up a memory. And with those lyrics, you've always got a tempo that goes with it. And that is a resonance. That is sound, that is frequency. And those sounds and frequency penetrate and able to affect my physical body. And this is why I get goosebumps from that song. This is why I remember that song gave me a memory of smelling the ocean, or when I was in Mozambique with my best friend. All of this sound frequency also has an impact on how we are responding, because we are sound, vibration, frequency. Our plants are sound, frequency, and vibration. I can use the example biblically where it says God spoke us into his creation. God spoke, and the word was God, and God was that word. So if God spoke us, God said, let there be life, let there be water, let there be earth, let there be humans, let there be insects, let there be animals. That was sound, that was resonance, that was magnetism that he used to not only create what he wanted, but also to call back into what his reflection was of himself. So he made everything in his image. So we ourselves, if we are made in God's image, have the same potential by listening to sound frequency, to be in the church, the synagogue, the mosque, whatever it is, and to resonate with the sounds of the songs that they're singing or the chants that is happening. I mean, sound frequency for me has been overlooked because one can feel the connection from an R&B artist, but yet one can't feel the connection by being in stillness and meditation and listening to bowls, listening to a mantra. But it's the same frequency. You just need to tune in. If you look at your radio station, or you look at all radio stations in South Africa, if Sean is trying to speak of a word and he is trying to get to a frequency where it's, I don't know, 99.2, I have to find from 88.0, I have to be able to have the frequency and the consciousness awareness to not get distracted by 92.7, 96.4, 98.0, because there's a nice song that's being played. I have to have that conscious awareness within myself to be like, stay on track, stay in your healing journey, stay in your focus, and get to 99.2. And a lot of people don't realize that once you get tuned into your frequency, your words, your thoughts, your actions become an extension of you. And that in itself is where we become God in our own creation, and we start interacting with this infinite intelligence of the universe, where our internal compass, through how I feel my words, how I connect with my words, eventually when I speak my words, becomes part of my creation. So sound frequency for me is something very powerful, and I use bowls, I use instruments, I use gongs, I use rattles, I even play music because there's elements of certain instruments and certain hertz that's allowed to bring resonance, vibration into the body, where the body really just allows yourself to let go and release.
Sean, I want us to stick to your analogy. I think it's a beautiful one, that of a radio and you sort of tuning to a particular frequency. Sean, we need that knob. You see that knob, the button, the one that allows us to continue to press to get to 99.2? I feel like a lot of us don't know where that button is. Or we know where that button is, but we don't know how to maneuver. So instinctually, when you are perhaps in your car and you're trying to tune into a particular station and you're turning the knob or you're pressing the button, or you're moving whatever it is you need to move to find the frequency, you have a guided sense of understanding. And so you can move that knob with intentionality. When it comes to restorative healing, when it comes to sound healing, where is the knob, Sean?
It comes to your willingness to actually surrender to a new experience and not let culture, religion, what mom said, what dad said, what they said, what society says become the blockage of you actually experiencing something new. In our work, when we work with corporates, we're dealing with diversity there when it comes to culture and religion. And some people will sit there continuously and be dissociated from an experience and use their religion, their culture, or their beliefs as a blockage for them to actually go into an experience. So what they're actually doing is resisting themselves. So everybody knows where the knob is. I promise you we do. Everybody knows how to get to their frequency. I promise you we do. The difference is the closer I get, I start understanding that a version of myself is now about to be created. Patterns and beliefs are going to get let go of. Friendship circles and conversations are going to sort of disappear on me because my resonance, my frequency is no longer going to be as part as that environment or that conversation or that person. So we cling on to our past. We cling on to what we know is comfortable. And that in itself is why we put the blinkers on and we go, oh no, I can't actually see the button. I'm actually not too sure what radio station I'm on. So we self-sabotage and we don't even allow ourselves to get to the point where we can be in a new aspect of our creation because safety and comfort is a lot more easier for many people.
Sure. And for those who are saying, I understand dissociating from structures of perhaps culture, religion, my own practices that I've once experienced. However, the unknown is so uncertain that I feel fear stops me. So it has nothing to do with what anyone said. It's just the reality of stepping into this unknown place that I can't tangibly touch. What would you say to them?
I love this question. So the word fear was written 365 times in the Bible. And that was God's word to say to us, never to fear any day, any minute, any hour, because it's written 365 days of the year. So because it's been written 365 times in the Bible, it's stating to us, what are we fearing? We've got no reason to fear anything because God is with us, for example, okay? Another example is for me is what is the unknown? The unknown is something that could also be predictable. I say to clients all the time, your known story is your past, it's your pattern, it's your beliefs, and where has it gotten you? It's created a lot of limitations and it's created a lot of blockages for you. So why not shift into something that is unknown? But even in the unknown, you can predict what is known. What do you want? What do you want to manifest? What do you want? What are your intentions? And if you can align mind, body, spirit intentionally to what my known needs to be in the unknown, you can produce anything you want. The problem is with a lot of people is the unknown is scary, but the known is not so pleasant. So why would you stay in an unknown, a known unpleasantness instead of stepping into an unknown where you could predict a much more greater future? And for me, I challenge all my clients. I'm like, guys, the unknown is perfect. What can we project and what can we intentionally put out there that we know in the moment of the unknown? You know you're going to be fine. You know you're going to be healthy. You know you're going to be excited. Perfect. Let's work on those three points. And let that be the focal point. When you walk into the unknown, that you know there are some points that you already have manifested, which is known. And that in itself allows you to walk into this blank canvas, the unknown, and create anything you want. It's like a white wall. You can create anything you want in it. You can paint it blue, red, yellow. You can splash it with anything you want. But either way, it's part of the creation that's just going to create something beautiful. You know, if we can put you in a dark room now and switch off all the lights, okay? But you were in that room, you saw everything, and I switch off all the lights. All of a sudden, you walking around blank in the unknown space, and you start touching something. You go, what is that? There must be something in the room. No, it isn't. It's just your psyche creating fears and illusions. It's just the pattern and beliefs of certain dynamics of your childhood that is playing out in this dark room, that there must be something inside it. But as soon as I switch on the lights, you'll be like, oh, there's actually nothing inside here. All of a sudden, it becomes known. But you already knew the known when you switched off the light. You were in the same room.
Sean, until there was something that was in the room that we didn't know about. Anyway, besides the point, we take a quick breather, and then when we get back, we find out how these play out in relationships. Outside you centering self, how does you centering self sort of fit into the context of you and your loved one's space? 42 minutes after 11 p.m. Central Africa time. If you're listening and you're saying, Shayla, I have a question for Sean, find us on WhatsApp +27 83 288 6684. For now, a quick breather. It is 17 minutes before the show comes to an end. Let's wrap up conversations with our mind, body, and sound facilitator who helps people reconnect with themselves through intuitive healing and integrated therapy. This is Sean Rattenbury joining us this evening. Sean, we kind of got to an understanding of how the human being should conceptualize sound healing, and how we should come into a space being ready to explore the unknown. What does this mean for me and my special somebody, though?
Are connecting with sound therapy is that we are able to find the stillness. And in that stillness, you're able to hear sounds that you've never heard before. So if you're able to sit in stillness or be in sound therapy and learn these techniques, you're able to even bring them into your special somebody and your relationship, where you get to see them from a different space and you get to hear them from a different space. When we are in relationships for 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years, we are used with our partners saying something, behaving a certain way, and always disappointing us in certain dynamics. And if we are able to see them in a new space, a new light, and to hear them from a new sort of understanding of creation, we're able to actually communicate with our partners a lot more better. We get to hear their needs, we get to hear their wants, we get to, meet them in a place where it's heart to heart, but from a place where we're not emotionally charged, but we're more emotionally centered.
And for those who are thinking to themselves that my partner and I are going through difficulty, so even just meeting minds at this stage feels heavy. There's already a lot of pushback. They're not coming to you with a space where they're ready to explore the space of the unknown, this place of healing, of restorative power and energy. What's the first thing that you say to the two? These who are minds apart, who feel like their worlds apart, but are still looking for some kind of solution.
Welcome. You're just getting started. Because you now need to start a new pattern, a new belief, and a new communication state. The problem with relationships is, many people are continuously bringing in the baggage from past relationships, and we keep comparing our partners from past relationships. So when it comes to a new dynamic, when couples come and see me, for example, because I do deal with quite a few couples, is that we create space for them to be heard. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that our needs be met by being heard. And a lot of the times, it is challenging for some people, mostly the men that I deal with, because we're so rigid in logic and women are so charged by emotion that the man wants to bring logic to a woman's emotion, and a woman's trying to express her emotions in a way where the man can put logic aside and connect from his heart. And sometimes I always emphasize to the men is like, can we put our minds aside and be in our heart space and listen to what your partner's saying. Because when we're in our heart space as men, we're able to communicate from our heart, but we're able to see our partner from a much more different light. So the beauty when I work with couples is I purely bring them to a space of conscious awareness. Sean, you said this. Mary, how did you feel? Mary, how did you hear Sean? What came up for you when Sean said that? Okay, Mary, what do you want to say to Sean? And how does it impact you, Sean? What did you hear and how did it impact you? And then we're able to bring a pattern where Sean, in his tone and how he communicates to Mary, brings up stories in memory from childhood when her father was very abusive. We're able to have Mary communicate to Sean and Sean to say, well, when I hear Mary speak, I hear like weakness. And I used to hate seeing my mom weak when she was dealing with my father. Then we start realizing that we are just triggering and we are mirroring each other's inner woundings. And when we're able to see that, wow, my communication, what my tone is, I have to be cognizant of when I speak to Mary because my tone reminds her of such an unhealthy expression of her father. And Mary has to, in that moment, remember how she communicates to Sean because she's consciously aware that it brings the irritation of weakness and how Sean witnessed his mother. And when you bring those two people into that level of conscious awareness, they see their partner from a new light. And that allows a different aspect of their evolution and a new transition for their relationship to take shape.
Sean, we have gotten a mouthful. We've gotten an ear and a half from you. However, for those who are saying, I would like your services, maybe just for myself or for me and my partner, or for me and my entire organization, where do we get a hold of you?
So Integrate Wellness is our website. So integrate with an 8. Integratewellness.com, .co.za. We've got information or info at integratewellness.co.za. I can also just share you guys my contact details as well, if you'd like.
Absolutely, go for it, sir.
So my personal cell phone number is 072 392 3734. And you can always WhatsApp me and let me know that you heard the interview and there's an aspect of something that you want to, dive into. And again, most people will just email me on sean@integratewellness.co.za.
Okay, Sean, for those who are saying a little slower with the number, let's go again, please.
072
Yeah.
392 3734.
Good, sir. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate your presence on the show and continue to do the good work that you do.
Okay, can I just spell out Integrate Wellness for those that need to know?
Absolutely. Go for it.
INTEGR number 8 wellness.co.za.
Again, Mr. Sean, this has been a pleasure. I know that very many people on TikTok have been blessed by listening to your descriptors and essentially how you are giving us understanding and wisdom when it comes to yourself and connecting with others. So thank you a ton for joining us.
Thank you for having me. All the best.
The voice there of Mind, Body and Sound Facilitator, that is Sean Rattenbury. It is 9 minutes before the show comes to an end. Time flies. In actual fact, time bleeps when you're having fun. Let's take a quick breather and not so long from now we'll hear from Morris Touch.